everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today Eric made me watch Re-Animator, which is a film that I have always meant to see, and now that I've seen it, I'm wondering why.
Well, and I should say...
I'm not wondering, it's Jeffrey Combs.
This is kind of, he made me make him watch. I would not have of my own chosen to make you watch this. It's a film I love and I've seen many times. It's not exactly something I would think you would like.
Yeah, that means that you have like empathy, and you're merciful. You know, Eric's a good friend. He would not have thought of this to make me anyway. Because this show usually isn't about torturing each other so much as it is here's a thing you really should sit down and watch.
Yeah, or you might like.
But now we're getting more toward the just gotta see what your face ends up looking at while you're watching it. kind of movie, kind of subject, and that's where we are today, because a lot of my experience watching this movie, and a lot of my review is, no, and please no, stop it. And anyway, that's my whole review. So
okay.
So Eric, why? I guess the reason you picked this has kind of come up already.
Yeah, well, you wanted to see it because it's got Jeffrey Combs in it. Now, what's interesting is
that's his big, like career making role.
Yeah.
And I had this with Matt Frewer too, where I've never seen Max Headroom, and I feel like at some point I should sit down and watch that just because I don't know if I'll like that movie, but that it was a series, wasn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing I never saw, but I love Matt Frewer, but I feel weird not seeing, like, the thing he's known
something
most.
You probably like more than this. It's more your thing than this.
Does it surprise me? Does it have a head
Giving head?
Tries to rape someone? Because if that's not there, I probably immediately will like it.
The giving head scene is the entire reason I was like, probably not a cat movie. So much not a cat movie.
And of course, naturally, the thing that will most stick with me and haunt my dreams.
So much not a cat movie that there was a couple of boxes of stuff that are still in Florida at my parents' house. And I'm pretty sure I specifically did not bring that movie because I was like, well, I'm not going to watch that with Cap. I'm not going to watch it immediately. There's no way he's going to watch that.
We were talking about doing this Halloween, this kind of Halloween series of He Made Me Watch, and I don't know how this even came up. We were talking about Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
We've been doing the Babylon 5 Deep Space Nine series, and I'm looking forward to getting Eric to when Jeffrey Combs finally starts showing up.
Because I like Jeffrey Combs a lot.
And of course, he plays two roles in that show. At least two recurring roles, and once in the same episode, but
That's
not
great.
Interacting with each other.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I always wish that would happen. But those are two characters. I don't know what they would have to say to each other. But anyway. And so anyway, this came up somehow or rather, and he was like, well, I could do it on He Made Me Watch, but...
I don't know if you want to watch.
Anyway, so...
Should I give a short plot synopsis?
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
It's a pretty typical story. It's your classic reinterpretation of the Frankenstein story. It's you have an aspiring doctor who is at doctor school, and a new student, Herbert West, played by the guy Jeffrey Combs, the Comb. Played by Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs has created a reagent that gives life to dead organisms. He starts testing it with Dan helping him, and they get into mayhem and mishaps. Wacky fun!
They end up doing horrible things to people.
Well, Dan actually comes out pretty squeaky clean.
You think?
The only time he ever does anything is when it's a reanimated corpse that's attacking him.
Well, I feel
Herbert murders someone.
No, that's true. I feel like he's got kind of a guilty by association thing. I guess he feels worse than he is because he's not nearly as apologetic for it as I feel like he ought to be. Like he is too partially responsible for what happens to her dad.
Well, it escalates really quick.
No, it certainly does escalate real quick. But he gets, and this is not a movie where these people are supposed to be likable. I don't feel like, and I feel like a lot of horror movies, especially in this kind of more B movie sort of realm, feel like they can get away with you're not liking any characters so that they can do whatever awful things they want to, and you won't be like, feeling bad for them in the scene because you're supposed to be enjoying the gross stuff that's happening.
Well,
with people.
and with
that's your thing.
We establish our first time we see him is him trying to get the body to work again.
Yeah.
It kind of mirrors the final scene. So we establish immediately that this is someone who is not okay with death. That is already trying to kind of, in his own way, push the limits of death.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
So I think that's why he's quickly susceptible to Herbert West's brand of madness.
Yeah, I wasn't really picking up on that, but that makes sense.
I've seen this bunch.
Yeah.
Can you imagine watching this movie like 10 times?
No, I can't. And this is one of those movies, I'll be as articulate as I can, or on a first watch, I'm having a hard time going to analysis plays. It's more just trying to process the nutso-weirdness stuff. And the fact that I didn't know where I was with this movie, like I didn't know where I stood with it. I felt like there was a particular brand of internal logic, and then by the time I got to the middle, the rules suddenly changed.
Well, it's the third act because we checked it, and you were like, "Oh, it's the third act."
That's right. It was the beginning of the third act.
Yeah.
It was exactly at not that these breaks always happen, this clearly.
But it's basically
I think
exactly
with this movie it does.
In.
But it's 2/3 in. It's you got half an hour left, and I was like, "Oh, and the rules have changed." And I mean, I don't think the rules actually changed, but for your watching it, it's like. Well, no, they sort of kind of do, because there's no...
Well, the bad guy becomes psychic out of nowhere.
Well, and it's not... See, I was thinking that, but it's not even psychic so much, because
he's controlling the other bodies.
He's controlling the other... Right, but then that becomes more like almost a necromancy kind of thing? I don't even know if that's the right word.
I don't know.
But yeah, because but we know that it's all about the brain, so he's controlling their brains, but then he's controlling his own body, which is severed from his head, and I don't know how that works, and I don't know how his being fresh enough to come back with his faculties together, as much as they are, because at this point it's kind of just because he's still pretty primal, right? It's still pretty animalistic, and like he remembers more and has more of his actual personality with him than anybody else that's been reanimated. But it's still, I want food, which at this point is blood. I want sex, like. But then that's kind of what he was in the first place too.
Yeah. Well, and we don't drop the
maybe there's a thing there. Like
we don't
I'll get into that in a second.
We don't drop the creepy sex thing until like the third act.
Yeah.
It's not seeded at all that he has like this creepy affection for the girl until he's become like a crazy lunatic, and then Dan goes to his girlfriend and he's got all these files with like your hair and like napkins you've used, and we don't mention that until the third act.
No, that's true, but he is hitting on her earlier.
Yeah. And
that goes to, and that's already to a creepy place because he's taking advantage of this girl and that happens. No, I think that is intentionally them seeding that because
right,
because right after the like in that scene, and this is hilarious and intentionally hilarious. In that scene, suddenly the dad comes up and starts banging his head on the one-way glass, and of course she's traumatized and losing her mind and has that look on her face that says, "How dare you try to take advantage of me in this situation?" So now that's seeded.
Yeah.
But anyway, now he's an absolute cartoon character. I was saying while we were watching it, well, that's this movie. But I was saying to Eric while we were watching it, I was like, I'm trying to imagine what it would be like if you tried to act like that guy in real life. I mean, before he's a severed head that controls his own body, because that's just not possible.
You will do as I tell you.
Yeah. And just his whole speech right before he gets axed to death, when he's like, "I'm going to be famous." I just love the way that guy talks. It's so completely insane and over the top.
I'm surprised he never showed up on Star Trek. I mean, he might. You just didn't immediately recognize him, but he seems like a guy that would show up as an evil alien for an episode.
He seems like he's really channeling some of the more crazy over the top Hammer Dracula kind of performances,
sure,
right? Or Hammer monster movies in general.
Yeah,
like he's going back to that well.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't note this before. This is based on H.P. Lovecraft's story, a story that he himself detested and considered like drivel for the mindless masses.
What was it called?
Herbert West Re-Animator.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it is as close to.
So it sounds like what the ongoing television show based on this would have been called, right?
It's the closest he gets to comedy. You can view it as
Re-Animator,
almost...
the Herbert West, Herbert West Chronicles. That's what the TV show would have been called.
There's a lot of ideas pulled from the story here, which is, I believe, 4 parts. Maybe it's 5. I've read the whole thing.
Why did he hate it so much?
He wrote it for a magazine that he didn't like because he was paid so much for the word, like they had the best rates, and he had to end every chapter on a cliffhanger, and he hated writing like that. He felt it was artificial, and so he didn't really use any of like his best ideas in that. It wasn't his serious literary work about the space gods. So
naturally, being as commercial as it is and appealing more to the masses, it's one of the ones that people really love.
Well, I think in Lovecraft circles, it's not like super well regarded. I feel like it's one of those things where like
it's just easily adaptable.
People like it because the movie happened, and it's probably the biggest Lovecraft adaptation that's been made. Like it's probably the only one you've ever heard of. The big gag of the book that's a little, or the short story that's a little bit in the movie is the no matter what happens, Herbert West has an excuse for why it didn't work, and you just need to get fresher bodies to the point where they actually go and enlist in the army, because that's the best way to get the freshest bodies.
Oh, that's clever, actually.
Yeah. So it's an alright short story. I think it's better than he thinks it is. He would hate this movie. He was rather prudish. He would not be a fan of this film.
Well, I wouldn't figure, and obviously it's kind of making fun of the material, and
I think it's lovingly making fun of the material.
No, I think so too, but I could see why, the person who made it wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
If they were hoping for, if they were okay with it being adapted.
Yeah. Well, he was long dead by the time we made this movie.
Of course, yeah.
And there's no sex or anything in Lovecraft stories, so he wouldn't be okay with those elements. His reaction would be similar to yours.
Yeah, he'd be like, although, he probably doesn't have as weak of a stomach as I do.
You might be right. Hey, I didn't. You wanna tell the good people?
I don't know. Yeah. So, I appreciate things about this movie. Certainly, I mean, it's not like the worst movie watching experience I've ever had, or like I understand why this kind of thing appeals to people to some degree, but yeah, it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah,
most certainly.
I actually wasn't.
It was fun to watch
sure.
with you. I think if I watched it by myself, I would have disliked it more.
I wasn't sure because of how absurd the third act goes, and you were laughing a lot. I didn't know if that might sway you.
That helped, certainly. But then, on the other hand, I was kind of enjoying it on a more, like regular, mainstream drama level at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more, a little bit more. I knew I was watching, heightened material, but...
Well, and it's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's very clearly a horror comedy. We do scenes that we would... The pencil breaking scene is not something you would do in a straight film.
No, unless that was a comedic element in an otherwise dramatic film where we were just using that to show that character's, to demonstrate that character's eccentricity. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, you might have a thing like that.
So I guess, the reason you watched it is Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Jeffrey Combs in this film?
He's a lot of fun. There's less of him than I expected, because he's not actually the protagonist. And I expected him to be the protagonist, and then I was a little bit surprised by the because the guy and his girlfriend kind of serve as dual protagonists, and I was a little surprised that his credit in the opening credits is and Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West, and I was like, oh, he's maybe not the main character.
Yeah, and that is how it is in the short story. It's all because Lovecraft is always first person. Mm-hmm. It is from Dan's perspective, although he's never given a name. He is just Herbert West's assistant. He's the narrator. They invent the name Dan Kane for the film.
And of course I was being like, oh, Dean Kane. But that doesn't mean, of course, that just because the story is told from one person's perspective,
That the
that's
film
actually,
about them.
or that movie that means that in that story that is the protagonist.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was just saying, but that is a thing in the story.
Yeah,
Not saying that they should have gone that way or that they
Yeah, that's
shouldn't
interesting.
have.
Yeah, no, I mean he's the source of the conflict.
Yeah.
Obviously, a protagonist can be the source of his own conflict, but that's not really the case.
You know what he is? He's the one supernatural element in the background.
That's exactly what it is, because I mean, like the guy that becomes the disembodied head.
It's because of Herbert West.
Yeah, but also he's the antagonist of the piece even before that happens. So I mean, like Jeffrey Combs isn't the antagonist so much as a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's he's the. He's the status quo changer at the beginning. He's the occasion for story.
Yeah.
It's your kind of classic stranger comes to town kind of story.
Yeah.
So it's basically Frankenstein from somebody else's perspective who's like friends with Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. And is less successful than Frankenstein?
Yes, a lot less successful than Frankenstein. I kind of like the I sort of kind of like the twist at the end that like she gets reanimated, but you don't see it. And I guess I can't even really call it a twist except knowing that they made another one that's called Bride of Re-Animator, because that's what you do with Frankenstein. Mm. You know, he wants a bride, and then that ends up happening. Yeah. Except that in this, it's not the monster that wants the bride.
Well, I have not seen the sequels, so I don't know what the plot of that is. I just think that's an interesting place to go since we're comparing it to Frankenstein. Because I know the villain from this comes back and gets bat wings on his head.
That's so funny.
I know that happens in the sequel. I can only imagine it's he wants a bride and forces Herbert West to give him one. That's the only thing I could guess for what that. But I have not seen the sequels.
See, I would have figured it was you see what happened to her, but maybe they didn't do that.
Well, it's 5 years later. I don't know if they would get them back. You know, I know Jeffrey Combs is in all.
Or you could recast.
That's true. I don't know. She's integral.
She would be easily recastable. I mean, for this material, she's not awful. I think she's understanding the material as much as anybody else in the movie.
Yeah.
But there is some, of course, like really super schlocky acting, and it's hard to tell with her especially how much of that, and the guy too. But how much of that, her boyfriend, how much of that is intentional on the part of the producers and director, and how much of that is her acting. Mm-hmm. I don't know for sure.
And Jeffrey Combs immediately knows what movie he's in.
So when I say she knows what movies she's in, I guess I really mean from scene to scene. I'm not really sure, but much of the time I think she gets it.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I think she kind of gets it in the really insane the head is trying to rape her scene. I think she gets what movie she's in there.
Oh no, you have to get it by the time you get to the head gives head scene.
Yeah. Oof. Anyway.
Do we want to talk about some of the weirder, more squeamish stuff for you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody else can share my joy.
Yeah.
I fangirl squeed.
Eric was really enjoying that. The stuff that's coming to mind immediately is mostly with the head. I'm trying to remember things before that.
Oh, well, there's all the stuff with the cat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which we started noticing this motif that was really funny, that was clearly intentional. I don't think it means anything, where we just keep throwing things against walls.
Well, and there's always what I would assume is like a skull fragment or brain matter. There's always something that falls off of the wall after the body.
Yeah.
It's like the same shot, but we do it with a cat body, then we do it with a full person body, and like we just keep doing that. I mean, the film opens gross.
Yeah.
It's really...
It's all running together for me right now, just right after watching it. It's just a big gore fest, and I'm not...
It's not
a thing. Like,
the first two acts really aren't. You've got some stuff with the cat. It's kind of sprinkled throughout.
You're right, and it builds suspense well to all that, but needs to open the way it opens so that you know what kind of movie you're watching, so that it then can do that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it does that. But I guess I just mean that last act is such a gore fest. It all kind of begins to run together. You've got the thing with it gets pretty gross certainly when we mess up her father, and we have the corpse that comes alive,
Yeah.
and then he's killed by a hand that goes straight through him.
No, it's the buzzsaw.
The buzzsaw.
The bone saw.
The bone saw is ready. Yeah.
Well, and then there's just all the stuff with the headless corpse.
Yeah. Which for this material, because of course it's supposed to be kind of goofy, but they do some really interesting practical effects. Like I think this is a really I want to say it looks good. I don't know if that's the right thing to say about.
They do a really good job of hiding
the head. That's really clever.
Yeah.
Not
in story. In story, they play it for laughs, but effects wise.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of really creative practical effects in this movie that I thought were really impressive. It's one of those movies, and I have this a lot with especially schlocky horror that's there mostly for shock factor, and I think this is very much a movie that's meant exclusively for men at the time,
Probably,
obviously. Yeah. And because we often will go to those really gratuitous places where you got to have the sex and you have to have the suit and you have to have the super over the top violence with the blood that goes all over the place and just things I've never appreciated and never understood why people like.
Well, but with the sex thing, I think they do turn that on the head. When we get to the end, we do the gratuitous TNA scene, but it's not sexy.
Well, no, that's true.
I mean, you see her topless for 5 seconds earlier in the film, but when we get the gratuitous scene, it's not sexy. It's not trying to be sexy. It's trying to creep you out. It's trying to skeeve you out.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess maybe this is awful for me to say. I guess it's so weird to have these conversations on this channel. I guess it's. I guess sometimes I get in this headspace with a thing like this when I either am forced to watch it or for whatever reason force myself to watch these things, that I figure that that an audience that really, for lack of a better phrase, gets off on this kind of thing, gets off on nudity and stuff no matter what the context is.
Well, and I mean, for my enjoyment of the film, I like it because it's funny.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, and that's why I think I tend to more gravitate towards horror comedies than I do straight-up horror movies. I like monster movies, and generally, I like my horror to skew kind of comedy. I think it's funny. I'm not here for the gore. I'm here to kind of laugh at the gore.
But aren't there guys that
absolutely
that are that way?
Oh, absolutely.
That are look girl parts and look body parts flying around.
Well, I don't know if those are two things that are always connected. I think there's a lot of sports people that are also look body parts. Because you get this in a lot of machismo 80s action movies too. The 80s in general is a lot of just look girl parts in our adult films.
Yeah, but also a lot of violence on top of it. So it's hard not to think those two things go together for some people.
But it's a different kind of violence. I mean, when you look at something
hard to decide if that makes a difference.
But when you look at something like a Schwarzenegger film versus something like this,
well, that's true.
I don't even know if those are the same audiences. It's both violence and sex, but I don't know if those are the same. I don't even know if those are the same guys.
Yeah, and I mean, I am fully admitting that this is the last thing that I'm, really qualified to talk about. So I don't know. I don't understand the appeal entirely of a thing like this. Mm-hmm. Some of the initial foundational science fiction ideas certainly I appreciate, but we're kind of, like you said, repackaging things we've seen before. Certainly, there's not a lot new here as far as the ideas go.
This is a riff on Frankenstein.
Yeah, and it almost goes into parody territory with Frankenstein, where obviously if there's a message, it's the man's not meant to tamper, messing with nature that we're not meant to mess with, kind of stuff. And also like primal instincts and how much that drives us, and there's a little bit of identity stuff. Certainly, I mean, when you get to the end, the dad prevails because there's still some of him there, even though he's lobotomized.
That's post being brought back and being lobotomized.
Yeah, so it's also the human condition prevails kind of message. But then when you get to the end, it's a less optimistic message because the guy brings his girlfriend, tries to bring his girlfriend back to life. Because he's desperate, because
he loves her.
Yeah. I don't really know why, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the story tells us he loves her, and I like that they break up and do not get back together.
Yeah,
he
I
is
like
doing
that
it
too.
solely because he cares about her. It's not a really even male-driven goal. It is just.
Well, I suppose that's true. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. So maybe that is like a somewhat more optimistic, and also we have to remember that. That it's fresh enough that she might come back okay.
Yeah.
But then the screen makes you wonder.
Yeah.
But then it's supposed to hurt when you come back. So because there's that line about like being born.
Yeah. Birth always hurts.
Which cracks me up
because it's a cat with a severed spine,
with a messed up spine, and seconds before he says he's like don't be alarmed. It's got a severed spine. It's gonna be a little different when it wakes up. I forgot what exactly he says, and then
I think he says like don't expect it to dance for you.
That's right. That's right. He's like it's not gonna be dancing around. It's got a severed spine. He's like, why is he making those noises? And the answer is being reborn is painful. No, the answer is it's got a severed spine. It's the reason it's not dancing around the room.
The my favorite line in the entire movie is Dan comes home with his girlfriend. They can't find the cat, and the girlfriend's like, "This is really weird. The cat's always bugging you when I'm around." So they find that the body is in Herbert West's fridge, and Herbert West comes home and he's like, "Why are you looking at my fridge?" They're like, "Did you kill the cat?" And he's like, "No, I found it and I put it here because I didn't want you to find it that way." And he says, "You could have left a note or called." He goes, "I had to go to work." What would a note say? Cat dead, details later? It's my favorite line.
I like that. That's really good.
Okay, so
now the question is, with that scene, did he kill the cat?
I don't know.
I like that.
I think it could go either way.
I like not knowing.
I tend to think he didn't, but then because the way I view
There's
him...
no knowing because he's obviously got that in him. It's not too long after he murders a person.
Yeah. I don't know. I was gonna say the way I kind of view him is that he doesn't murder for his science, but then he does murder that guy, but it's because he's blackmailing him. He could have just hit him with a shovel. He didn't have to take his head off.
Yeah. It seems like he's kind of making excuses and justifications, and we don't know a ton about his background, but he's clearly like socially off.
Yeah.
You know, he's
kind of
not.
a crazy person.
He's not. You can't tell if he's straight up unhinged in the first place.
Well, and then there's, I think the big tip off that he's not exactly all there is when they kill the cat, and then he goes, "Look out." And then Dan looks,
and he thinks it's
and
funny.
he just starts laughing.
Like, at first I think that he's just not in touch with his own empathy, and maybe that's what the whole thing is. You know, maybe it's kind of a Dexter thing where he doesn't understand people, he doesn't know how they fit together. And I like the idea, and I don't know if this is really in the film. I think maybe this is supposed to be kind of the idea, but it's not at the fore. I kind of like the idea that he is that he, because he's so obsessed with death and he's so into death that he for whatever reason relates to that more than he does life, and that like bringing things back to life is him trying to get in touch with his own humanity. And I like the idea that maybe that's what it is, but there's not a great deal of evidence in the actual characterization because he just doesn't talk about a lot beyond his obsession with trying to bring people back from the dead.
Yeah.
And he just wants to. He just wants to do it because he wants to see if he can.
Well, one thing I've always wondered.
He's desperate to prove how good he is at his science.
Even if you bring back animals and they come back feral, you're getting grants, right?
You think?
Like, you wouldn't have to go straight to human trials and have all this happen. If you can bring back animals, that's where you do your testing. I would think he would easily get funding for this. If he can actually bring them back, even if he hasn't figured it out completely yet, you start with mice and guinea pigs and things like that until you get it right. I would think he would be able to get funding. That's always something I thought was weird about this movie. I'm like, no, he can do this. No one would be like, "You're a crazy madman."
Well, that's kind of a movie trope, right? Where you have to manufacture that to make it harder on him.
Yeah.
And because we try to go to that, this seems like a supernatural place, and that's not really what would happen. I'm with you. I also wonder, though, if it wouldn't immediately be, like, covered up by the government or something.
Well, and
You know, like the feds step in. I don't know.
And we kind of, when we do that, in the film, it's like a 2-minute scene, and then immediately there's like zombies attacking and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, if you could call them zombies, I mean, the Re-Animated dead. I don't know what you would call them.
Re-Animated
This film moves at a brisk pace.
It does.
It's like 87 minutes.
It's real short.
It doesn't waste any time. And I wish more horror films nowadays would do that.
And yet still takes its time in that there is some downtime in the film.
Oh, yeah.
And it certainly is like ramping up the madness.
Yeah.
You know,
we open real big, but then we come down for the complete entire first act.
Yeah.
It's not until the cat thing that we really start going back up.
Yeah, I think that's I was surprised by the command of pacing.
I've not really seen Stuart Gordon's other films. I think he's done 2 other Lovecraft-based films, but I've not seen them. And he doesn't do the Re-Animator sequels, he does other things. But we have to talk about the one thing that I've looked into, and not extensively, but I've looked into this and I've never found an answer.
Yeah.
Which is the score.
It's so strange.
It's really weird.
It's just Psycho.
It's just the Psycho music.
And when it started, I was like, okay, so they've taken that riff and they're going to do something else. Because you're like, okay, this is the one thing in this movie I don't get. And the credits start, and by the way, the opening credits are really cool looking.
Yeah.
And I like the schematics of the brain and everything's labeled and it's psychedelic and it looks really cool. But that starts, and when you said, "Oh, it's just the Psycho theme," I immediately recognized it. Of course, I was like, "Okay, they're gonna do something else with this. It's just that foundational base." No, it's just the whole thing.
Just the Psycho
theme, and then it's scored that way. It keeps coming back in the soundtrack.
It's really weird. The only thing I can guess is that the rights to that music lapsed for 30 seconds, and somebody bought it and was like, "I'm gonna put this in a movie." That's the only.
Is it such a small budget film that we can afford the practical effects, but we can't hire someone to write our music?
There is a composer something band.
Yeah,
I forget his first name. It's Greg Band.
Are we paying him less because we have the Psycho? Because obviously he's writing a score, but he's writing it around Psycho.
It's really weird.
And there's not a correlation between the material.
Now, that being said...
not really.
No, not at all.
My kind of more, analytical brain was trying to make some kind of a connection, thinking that maybe it was done for an artistic reason, because I just make that assumption too often. Oh, surely if we're ripping off something, there's a good artistic reason.
Well, this isn't even ripping off. This is using the actual material.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, it works well in the film.
Unabashedly. I think it does too. And to its credit, by about halfway in, even though I'm still thinking it's so weird this music is in this, I'm not, picturing Psycho while I'm hearing the music.
Yeah, if Psycho doesn't exist, this works fine as a score for this film. It's just that it is the exact same music as Psycho.
Well, and what's fascinating about it is that it works in a really different way. It feels like a more absurd score in this material.
It does, yeah.
Especially because in those opening credits really sell it well because of the way things are timed to that music. It's not just they had a movie and at the 11th hour they had to grab this music. It feels like it is specifically, intentionally scored. I bet somebody watching this is going to know why that is.
I hope so, because I've looked it up before. Like I said, I've scoured the internet,
yeah.
But I've never found anybody commenting on it. And it's been a long time.
You'd think that would be one of the first things that you'd find where people would, unless there's just never been interviews or anything about it.
No one's ever mentioned it. They just hope we don't notice.
When I finally meet Jeffrey Combs at a con...
You can ask him?
That's one of the things I'll ask him, which is crazy, because obviously I'd mostly like to talk about Star Trek stuff, but now that I've seen Re-Animator, I'm like, why is it Psycho? Do you know? Well, we're confused.
And it's interesting because it is used differently. In Psycho, it's used, at least when I think of it, it's largely it's paranoia. It's when she's driving around, it's when she's imagining bad things are happening, and she's just her being paranoid.
It's obsession.
Yeah.
It's madness and obsession.
Yeah. And it works. That's the thing.
Especially, and the bit that works the most in it is the oboe part. The da 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 da. You're just wild and mad and.
Yeah, it's almost like a
trying to control
opening
the
when
whole
you
world around
put it in a different place from Psycho, it's almost like a cartoon opening. Like, this is like a 90s absurdist cartoon.
It's a fascinating experiment. And it makes me wonder if there were a lot of people that saw this movie and didn't know it or didn't think of it.
Yeah, that might be. Well, and...
But of course, that movie's already a huge classic at that point.
But trying to put myself in the 80s, in 85, VHSs are still like $100 a piece. Maybe people hadn't seen Psycho a bunch. Like, you know, you would only be able to see it if you saw it at like some kind of midnight screening in the theater, or if it's on TV.
Television or something, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe people wouldn't be as familiar with it, but I think it's kind of insane they would think that they would get away with it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, home video's not as prevalent as it is 10 years after that.
Mm. Which is always weird to me, because I always grew up with, you know, VHSs in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
But
I remember it being a big deal when we finally started getting home video when I was a kid. I mean, I was really little, but we had so we got a VCR and we accidentally bought a couple of tapes on beta. Like, this is when there were still beta tapes coming out, and I got them home, and we're talking like a couple episodes of Ninja Turtles for like $25, and you get it home, and it's beta. Like, we weren't even thinking about format.
Mm-hmm. I had some of those VHSs. They were like 2 episodes.
That's what I said.
Well, yeah, I guess you said a couple.
Like 2 episodes. Yeah,
2 episodes. $25.
Yep.
Highway robbery.
That's it.
But so
it's the novelty of it. It's new technology. You think about all the stuff that's a lot cheaper now that you used to pay through the nose for, and happily.
I scoffed at $25 for a full season of television.
Yeah, and it was a big deal that I could even get Smallville when it started to come out. That was one of the first things I bought on DVD. I had some graduation money when I got out of high school, and that was, or was it even earlier than that? That's when it was, and that was like $50, and like I was happy to pay it.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to talk about with this one? I'm glad I finally saw it.
Are you?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not my kind of thing, but that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate some of the ideas and the absurdness of it. And again, if nothing else, the production. I mean, it's a really interesting study.
Well, and it's clearly a low budget film, but they've clearly made the best of their money.
Yeah,
they've got some great
certainly.
practical effects.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent there.
And I appreciate the makeup, like
I question some of the shooting here and there.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, for instance, when the guy's falling down the stairs, we're that close to him. I don't get that.
Well, because the cameraman's also falling. They're really steep stairs.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah. But a lot of the... Like there's a point where
trying to be right with that guy. We're in his head then. Yeah, okay.
Where Dan gets hit and he's got like a bruise here.
Yeah.
It's really good makeup.
It looks really good.
And the bodies are kind of the dead bodies are kind of painted like as I'd imagine it.
This is one of those movies that shows you just what you can get a person to do if you're paying them and they really need the cash. It's just...
They might just be having fun.
That's just a whole lot of naked zombies running around.
And some of them are really naked. There was one that I caught where I was like, oh, you're naked.
Well, I mean, it's I don't feel like we see this very then or now. I don't think we very often see full frontal male nudity ever. And I was a little surprised this movie did that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of glimpses of it here and there.
Yeah,
if you're looking for it.
I just noticed it.
Yeah,
but yeah, there is some of that.
Well, I mean, full frontal female nudity
unusual.
for like 10 seconds, and that's uncommon now and then.
Is it in horror? Not in horror films.
You don't ever go below the waist.
Yeah. Sometimes you do.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
that's not a thing I think of with horror films. Maybe some more B movie is. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of like Freddy and Jason. Like we never do that in those films.
See, I want to say Freddy vs. Jason had like a token shot that was like full. I might be wrong.
I don't think so. I mean, you might be right. I don't.
This is not a thing that I'm sitting around documenting in a notebook or anything. I don't remember.
Horror movies, counting the full frontal.
But I was a little bit surprised by that then. I wouldn't be so surprised by it now. But
yeah.
But anyway,
I should say, obviously, I've seen this film many times. I really like this movie. It's super gory, weird black comedy. If that's your thing, check it out.
I looked away a lot.
Not as much as I would have thought, though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've been a little desensitized in recent years, I must say.
Yeah. Well, and
Me before Spawn year looks away more.
what I loved was because you're super grossed out by the head, and then there's a point where you're
funny.
laughing and grossed out, and that was just the best.
Well, the thing I said was, I could not contain myself at just the sheer absurdity of head in a brain pan, soaking up blood, all excited because he's getting nourishment, controlling his own body, running into stuff, trying to get blood, and I turned to Eric after I finally was, because I just could not stop laughing, and I turned to Eric and I said, this is you got to give this movie the uniqueness of this scene.
No one has ever put this to film.
Has ever put that on film. And then when the head went after the naked girl, I said the same thing. I was like, this is new and has probably not been repeated.
It's new and unique and should be appreciated as such.
It will, this is not a movie I want to see again necessarily, but that will stick with me. I will never forget that. And you got to give that the crazy over the topness of that of that villain actor. Like, he's having the time of his life, man.
My favorite moment of watching you watch this movie is, so Herbert takes the head off the guy. He picks it up and you're like, ugh. He puts it in the brain pan, and it falls over, and he puts it back up, and it falls over again, and you're laughing, and he picks the head up to put it on the pencil spike, you're like, ah!
Oh, God, yeah, that's the thing. With pencil spike, he means, like, the spike that you
put
paper
the paper
on.
Spike, yeah.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that spike, I was like, no.
I love that.
No.
I love that it was like, ugh, laughter, ugh. Which is really how I'd sum up this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and certainly my experience watching it. I thought Jeffrey Combs had some really nice ad libs here and there, and things that had to have been ad libs. I imagine that they didn't intentionally have that head fall over so you could pick it back up. Like in the moment he's doing a performance, and I thought that was really cool. I mean, he's acting, he's doing a performance, but
he's staying in character.
He's staying in character. I thought that was pretty great. I told you this already, but I could not believe that the same day I watched this, I watched an Angel episode where Angel is about to torture a guy from Wolfram and Hart because this is when Wesley has just stolen his kid, and he's downstairs in the hotel and he finds one of those paper spikes. And he's going to take it upstairs and use it. And actually, he holds it right up to his face. Like, he never actually uses it. But, like, that's the main prop in that scene. And then 12 hours later, I'm watching this. Anyway.
I had fun watching it with you.
I had fun. I had fun entertaining you while I was watching it. Everybody, thanks as always for watching...
You made me watch?
For watching, he made me watch.
I truly did make you watch.
Yeah, you did. And we will talk about something else for you next time. I'm going to pick a horror film for Eric to watch next time, something super mainstream that he has never seen before, because that's what I do. And in the meantime, thanks again. We sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.